minutes past the hour. Patients of the doctor accused of intentionally misleading people or misdiagnosing people with cancer and giving them chemotherapy whether they needed it or not have formed a support group on Facebook. Remember, prosecutors say that doctor used those false diagnoses and unneeded treatments to steal about $35 million in Medicare claims from the federal government. The doctor, of course, is now locked up in Michigan, and a judge has set a $9 million bond. But prosecutors say the guy could go on the run. With us now is a member of that patient support group, Jeff Berz. His father died in 2008, received chemotherapy treatment from the doctor. It's nice to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
It's my understanding that your father received a diagnosis of mild leukemia, and that after some frustrations with a local hospital, you went to this doctor, and he immediately began chemotherapy, right?
That's correct.
And my understanding is it happened in a very unusual way.
After my father initially went to Dr. Fata's office, they installed a port in his body. And on many of the visits that my father would make to Dr. Fata's office, a staff member would come out to the parking structure where my father had his car, and they would actually administer the chemotherapy right there in the garage as he sat in his car.
Why?
They said it was for the convenience of the patient, but in the aftermath of all this, we're wondering about the professionalism, the hygiene involved in all this. There's so many questions.
How long did your father go to this doctor, and did he get better?
My dad was a patient for approximately 4 to 6 months. During the time he was receiving the chemotherapy, all we saw was a decline in my father, both mentally and physically.
And what did the doctor say about that?
He said it was all part of the chemotherapy routine, that we were gonna see some decline for a while the chemotherapy was doing its thing, so to speak.
You must have some awful thoughts and fears.
We certainly do, and that's kind of the problem right now. We don't have any answers as of yet, and we're waiting to hear from the prosecutors and hopefully from somebody as far as where we stand legally with this whole situation.
When your father told you that the doses were being administered in his car, did you then or at any other point develop any suspicions?
No, we really didn't at that time, because he was also going along with the convenience aspect of this. As time went on with the chemotherapy, he was having more and more trouble getting around. So he found this to be a great convenience at the time.
I guess there was no second opinion in then. This doctor was your second.
Yes. Unfortunately, my father had 100% faith in what Dr. Fata said. Dr. Fata more or less promised him that he was going to help him and make him better. And with that kind of prognosis, you trust what the doctor says.
Did the first hospital you went to, did doctors at that hospital recommend Dr. Fata?
No. When we went to the second hospital in Rochester, Michigan, that's where Dr. Fata was referred to my father. And
do you have any curiosity about that facility?
Not at this time, but there is some question as to why Dr. Fata was getting so many referrals. And all it is speculation at this point, and we're hoping that we can find out some truth very shortly as to what really happened to my father and all the other patients that were involved in this horrific crime.
I certainly hope you do. I wonder if you've made a number of friends or acquaintances on Facebook and what the stories there are like.
I most certainly have. I met a number of people in the federal court last Thursday for Dr. Fata's detention hearing. We now have a Facebook group that's approaching 800 people, and we've become a very good support group for each other.
Well, I hope that continues and that you find some peace in the end. It's an absolutely unthinkable thing. Anyone who has someone elderly in their family, a father or a grandfather or grandparent of some kind, it's hard to even imagine having to go through this. All the best to you and your family, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you know that every time you use